Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Mage, and today I'm bringing you our most popular quest for our second edition of Game Night. God damn it, what are people leaving? Sorry, but our previous game we had everybody leave right off the bat, so we are not having good luck with this so far. But anyway, here is Renaud. Why don't you give us a quick introduction about yourself?
Hi, I'm Renaud. I play Night Elf and played free-for-all for the past 10 years, I think. Something like that.
So you're pretty much been playing free-for-all as long as the game has been around.
Yes.
So I know that most of our players have a solo background and then eventually convert over to free-for-all. Is that true for you as well, or how did you get into free-for-all?
When I started playing, I tried more or less every mode, and I stick to free-for-all because you got so many experience when you won a game, and I wanted high level because EP.
So basically you're just an attention whore that wanted a high level.
Pretty much.
Makes sense. So obviously you've done very well for yourself in the Free-For-All Masters League, and what season did you win?
12, I think.
You know, when you can't remember what season you won, I'm starting to think it doesn't mean that much to you. Macadansky said the same thing.
Yeah, it's not about winning, it's about playing the game.
Well, that's just wrong, but anyway. However, you didn't start off as a Night Elf player. In fact, you played the most evil race out there, Human, to begin with. So, what made you start with Human? Have you tried any other races? And then, what made you switch over to Night Elf eventually?
Actually, I started with Undead, which was the strongest race at the time, surprisingly enough. And I eventually switched to Human to prove you could win without towers and tanks. That did not go too well, mostly because I was still getting team out of fear for tanks and towers that I did not have. And when I stopped playing, for Season 10, I came back as a Night Elf because I could not micro anymore. And, you know, Night Elf, no need to micro.
So are you saying that at one point you actually could micro?
Sort of. Oh, is he rushing me? He's not. Okay. I could not micro in a Macadansky way, but I could, like, use skills and stuff, which, when I came back, could not do at all.
Fair enough. So, I think a lot of people are probably curious about some of our earlier seasons of the Free-For-All Masters League. When did you first join FML?
I think at first I was a sub in season maybe 4, and I think I won. I'm not sure anymore, but after that I was in almost all the qualifiers. I rarely qualified, but oh, he has that. And yeah, pretty much since season 4 or 5 I've always been there.
Okay, and how did you find out about the Free-For-All Masters League to begin with?
I was in Clan Lone, and which was the free-for-all clan, and Warpex would often spam us about joining his league. And yep, most of the replays on free-for-all replays were from free-for-all Master League, so I eventually was able to join, and that was that.
So Clan Lone was known for actually really caring about their ladder ranked and stuff like that. I mean, at one point it was basically said that there's no clan free-for-all ladder because Clan Lone would just automatically win it. Were you ever involved in high-level laddering for free-for-all? I mean, did you try to get to rank 1 and stuff like that?
Yes. By the time I joined Clan Lone, it wasn't as big of a deal anymore, because the whole clan rivalry had been dead for like a few years. Because I played Rock for a very long time. But Lone was the biggest free-for-all clan, and it had a no private chat rule, which a lot of players really liked. I personally hate it because I love private chat.
Well, you must have been disappointed when FML got rid of it then.
Well, it got rid of it because of one of my games, so I can sort of agree with it. But, you know, I don't mind. I mean, yeah, I wish it would come back, but I understand why it's gone.
So a lot of people probably weren't around when we did get rid of it. Would you give a quick recap of that game that you're talking about and why we got rid of it after that?
All right, it was a game on Gold Rush, and basically in the first 2 minutes, another player, Chuveta, messaged me asking, there's enough gold mine for everyone. Let's just happily mine on our corners and not hit each other, which I was completely okay with since I was surround. And we just both hoarded for like 2 hours while the other were killing each other. So yeah, we easily won. And players thought that was kind of unfair that everyone would start to just hoard for the first hour of the game and then fight. Which eventually is what's going on right now anyway. But oh shit, I'm about to lose stuff. And yeah, especially since a lot of the players were from loan and they weren't allowed to private chat in any game unless money was involved. It was just more fair to remove it completely.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say I personally am glad for that because I'm not a huge fan of our 18-hour games that you are so frequently involved with.
Well, actually,
I don't know how you have the patience for those.
Private chat makes games shorter. Because when you can chat to everyone, you can't say, he's the strongest, let's kill him. Because he's going to defend himself and he's going to know you're coming. But when you can just have a 100-foot army out of nowhere at his doorstep, you can kill him faster. Game ends quicker. And it's also a lot easier to backstab someone. Because right now when you're teaming with someone, if you want to stop teaming, he will know because you're asking someone else, right?
Mm-hmm. Well,
So.
there are fair points to it. I think you'll find most players probably disagree with you, but you actually do make a pretty good case for it. So I talked with Magadansky a lot about manip, which is short for manipulation, and how chatting kind of plays a very large role in free-for-all today. And what are your kind of general thoughts on that? I mean, I know you and Magadansky actually, whenever you're in the same game, they just tend to last for hours, it seems like. So what's your general opinion, I guess, on chatting and manipulation in general?
I like the chatting and the manipulation, but not early game. I think it's something that should be left when you actually need it. Because when I started playing, and yes, I made Wisp, good. Players would not actually cry until they were dead or it was a three-way, which is completely different now, obviously. But, when it's a three-way, it makes sense to cry. But when it's a four-way and it's like the 10-minute mark, I don't know. Just die, in my humble opinion.
Just go ahead and give up.
Yeah.
So what do you think caused that kind of change in the metagame from back then when people didn't really start talking until a three-way to now when the first person to attack kind of gets called out on it very quickly?
I think probably high-level FML game where more and more you could see the player who did not go 80 as fast as possible would always win. And then because the old metagame, as soon as you could, you would go 80 and then you would fight over and over and over again until all the mines were drained, and then you would go up to 100 and keep on attacking everyone like crazy. But then, whoops, that's a lucky die. That would work very well in ladder. But it would also mean that whoever did not attack anyone would usually easily win. So for an important game like FML, players started wanting to win at all costs, so they stayed 50, started crying. So the game level increased, but it made the game not as fun.
Yep, I think that's a pretty fair summation of it. You're actually one of the players known for just having massive amounts of gold at pretty much every point in the game. What are kind of your keys to being able to do that? I mean, it's not everybody that's able to hoard gold so successfully and fly under the radar. And up until you won your championship, at least, you kind of were basically ignored during the game, despite the fact that you had made previous championships and you're one of the most consistently high-level players out there. So what do you attribute your macro success to, I suppose?
Well, as a human, it was, and that's a great reason. I hope everyone will take that trick. It was because I didn't actually make any towers. So that's like a huge chunk of your economy that was not getting wasted on towers. And people didn't team me because I didn't have towers. So, you know, he's just a noob. And yeah, also staying at 50 after losing a battle for a minute or two, that would usually give you a boost of like 2Ks, which late game is just so important. Also, not making bears. Not having to tech to lure, that's a huge thing.
So a lot of people, I think, would argue that bears are rather essential for a Night Elf army, since Rory does so much extra, gives so much extra attack damage to the chimeras and the hippogriffs. However, you've been a pretty avid proponent of just not getting bears the entire time you've played Night Elf. What's your reasoning behind that, besides the fact that chimeras kill off your bears with splash damage?
Well, the main reason is that they died because of my chimeras, but they don't actually give you that big of a boost if you have Priestess of the Moon. Because True Shot Aura makes it that chimeras are already doing so much more damage, so it's just like a slight boost. In my opinion, I'd rather just have another chimera which has more life and won't die to bats. Because right, they won't do as much damage, but they will live longer.
Mm-hmm. That makes some sense. I think, yeah, you'll find a lot of people disagree with you. However, as somebody that always kills off their own bear with a chimera, I can say I'm in 100% agreement with you on this one.
Yeah. If I could micro it, I would do that.
I think that's how I feel as well. But we mentioned early days briefly before, but you were very well known for a long time for being willing to suicide the first person to creep jack you or hit you early on. What caused that type of thinking for you, and when did you kind of get over that?
That was actually from reading a guide of XX, which was playing for keeps. And he was saying, well, okay, the metagame was you go AD as fast as possible and you don't actually kill someone, you just fight forever. He was saying, no, you stay 50 and you don't attack anyone unless they attack you. But if they attack you, you want to kill them. So you go 100 and you kill them. So I was like, okay, that makes sense, because then you kill the jerk who attacks you, so he won't attack you ever again. And you actually end the game a lot faster, because instead of staying in the limbo about, you know, he's dead but he's just hurt and you're just slowly getting level, you just know you're killing someone straight up.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't really a suicide, because I still wanted to win, but my way of winning was, I'm gonna lose my Vanda. My way of winning was to kill someone, basically.
At all costs. And would you say that the strategy served you well for the most part, or do you think it wasn't all that effective? Because you're pretty well known for, I mean, it may not have actually been suiciding, but most players viewed it as suicidal, at least, to hit you early on.
Yes, it did work very well, and that's actually one of the reasons I didn't do it when I came back and I played Elf, was because one of the best thing about that strategy was that people learned you were playing that way and would not attack you anymore. People were actually afraid of creepjacking you in a time where everyone was creepjacking everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So they would actually let my almost dead hero live because they were so scared. Of course, that doesn't apply to every player, but most of them. And when I came back, I was like, all right, I don't have like 5 years to rebuild this.
Can't teach everyone new again.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, no, that's not gonna work anymore. But like the metagame evolved to a point where no one kills or creep jack early on, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see that come back a little bit more, but I mean, for 4 or 5 seasons, it was kind of everybody was allowed to creep the entire map, and then there was kind of a passive agreement that nobody would fight until after the creeping had been finished off.
Yeah.
Which, I think it's the same way you talked about earlier on. The metagame just evolved to people hoarding at 50 for a while, but there's not a whole lot to be gained from creep jacking someone. You're going to have to kill off a lot of your... you get a lot of your own units killed off, which will cost you gold, and you don't gain the same experience. So, be it less boring, which it probably is, but it ended up being that most people felt it was worth the time to just go ahead and creep the entire map and then fight after that, so you could hoard at 50 for a little while longer, and you'd get more value for your experience out of it.
Yeah. Also, actually, the biggest difference from now and then is probably the army composition. Because orcs, back in the day, were always all ground, and that was great. And now it's like, no, ground are shit units, and no one do them anymore, which I don't agree with. Ground armies were great.
Speaking as somebody that liked to kill them?
Yeah. I mean, they would still dominate because, you know, they were orcs, but it was actually, like, fair back then.
Yes, for those that don't know, Renault has a fierce burning passion to kill every orc on the planet.
Yep. I will not deny that.
Actually, that was kind of your strategy for a couple seasons, was if there's an orc in the game, you're going to take them out as early as possible.
Well, actually, the season I won, I did not play against an orc in any of my games. And that's why I'm still saying that I won that season, because I did not face against an orc. Oh,
well, you came pretty close in the season that L77 won. You took out Daselen, the only orc in it, really early on, but then you had to face the frustration of mass human towers everywhere.
Actually, that was YZ, I think. Wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
But,
yeah, they're both the same.
And even in that game, I left YZ alive at some point, and what he did with that life was killing me. So I learned, never let him live. It's an orc. Damn orcs.
So, since your winning season, you've faced a bit of a lull, it seems like, in your FML wins and just general success so far, but you've come back with a vengeance this season. Is there anything in particular that you can attribute that to?
So far, I have not played against an orc.
This is like a terrible conspiracy theory.
I know, but I haven't played against an orc so far. I've won every game so far, except for one against Mog, because, you know, Mog. But, yeah, it's definitely the orcs.
Well, obviously we just need to get rid of orc from FML, and then we can get rid of human, and then... Wow, you really lost a lot of health on your hippos there.
Yeah, I did not actually upgrade the armor. That's bad.
Poor Renaud.
Maybe I should do that.
So we've talked a little bit about some of the negative, or viewed as negative, changes in the metagame. What are some of the more fun and positive ones from when you first started to now?
There's positive change?
There's got to be some somewhere.
Mass Tower doesn't work as well as it used to do. That's definitely one of the positive. I mean, Camp and Spank managed to almost win multiple seasons, and all he did was Mass Tower, harass to level 6, and then tank port. And I mean, it's a legitimate strategy, but it should not work all the time in high-level matches.
Mm-hmm.
And now players actually are smart enough to say, okay, he's doing something that we all hate, let's team him. That's the teaming I agree with. Teaming people who do annoying strategies.
So you mentioned that players had gotten smarter. How would you say the overall player skill level has changed from when you first started to now? Has it increased, decreased, stayed the same, just gotten a little different, or what?
It's hard to say because my skill increased and I always used myself as the measuring stick. But I mean, back in the day, I could fight 100 foot army of guards versus 100 foot army, and I mean, I would lose all my stuff and the other guy would not lose anything. But I didn't have healing wards and I didn't use nukes. So obviously that's what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look back at replay, I think overall players are much better right now.
And are there any players in particular you think really stand out? I mean, we've actually had a pretty high turnover in FML recently. I'd say only maybe half of the players in this season were around before season 11 or 10. And it seems like we're getting a bunch of new people every season, and a lot of them have... Well, we have very high expectations for a lot of them, at least. So are there any players in particular that really stand out to you that are newer? I mean, obviously, Mog would be the primary example since he's done so well, but at this point, he can probably be considered a veteran.
Yeah, I don't consider... Oh, he left. I forgot about that. I forgot it was a 3-0 from the start. That was... Oh, shit. Okay, scouting. Useful. Alright, I'm obviously biased because I hate orcs, but Ostone...
Yep.
Ostone?
Ostone.
01 is the one I'm the most scared of because, well, he's an orc, and I just can't deal with them at all. Probably should not say that before the finals, though.
Don't worry. It's just getting published in 2 days.
Yes!
I'm sure nobody will watch it before then.
No. No one watches these interviews, right?
Nope. Trust me. It's not nearly as many people as I'd like, and hey, you did a lot better on this bat one. Well done, Renaud. So, you've actually been a member of the FML admin team for a long time. I believe it's been as long as Warpex, actually. How did you become a member of the admin team, and why don't you describe some of your responsibilities and duties to the other people listening? Obviously, I know since I'm also an admin, but you can kind of expand upon what you do, since I'm firmly of the belief that FML would not run without you.
I joined around season 7 or 6, I think, as an admin, which was primarily because there was a lack of admin and they were searching for more.
Was Warpex an admin at the time, and who recruited you?
It was probably Ugri that recruited me.
Okay.
Warpex was an admin, and FML would always lose admin because we had an unwritten rule that tiebreakers, whenever an admin was involved, he would automatically lose it. So there was a lot of player admins that was like, oh, that's a rule? Okay, well, I want to quit being an admin now. Which makes sense.
Yep.
But yeah, eventually we decided to actually have like a code of how to deal stuff. And also a lot of the admins were admin because they wanted the status of admin but did not actually do any work. That was also a problem.
Yeah, I can see how that is. I mean, we do have Persuade nowadays, so...
Yep.
So why don't you expand a little bit about what you do as an admin? I mean...
Right. Back in the days, it was just making sure the game was played and hosting games most of the time, posting replays. After a while, I started doing most of the coding for the little FML ladder we had a while ago, and all automating the posting of matches and stuff like that. Yeah, that's pretty much it right now. I don't take care of scheduling or anything like that.
No, but you also kind of make sure the site runs properly, and there's a lot more technical details behind it than Renaud is actually saying. When we do FML bets, he's the one that created all the code for that. All the front page stuff Renaud is responsible for, just in terms of actually getting it to run. Warpex does most of the graphical stuff, makes it look pretty, and Renault kind of does the back-end stuff for it.
Yeah. And actually, that's new that we help players schedule. Used to be their problem. That was the good old days.
Yeah, but some of us become impatient and want this to actually get played out and are tired of them dropping out.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Fair enough.
Congratulations on what looks like a win. I'll be really impressed if you blow this, by the way.
Thank you.
So I guess
I'll do my best.
we probably don't have a whole lot of time left, but is there anything in particular you want to talk about? And if not, I've probably got a few more questions I'd like to pick your brain about.
Fury wins again?
Okay.
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, what would you say is the most important part to winning in free-for-all? I mean, there are just so many aspects to it. There's scouting, which we saw you didn't do this game and you still won, so clearly that's not very important. There's macro, micro, knowing army composition, stuff like that. But if you're going to give advice to a new player, or even somebody that's been around for a while, where would you say that they should start?
It's probably not where you should start, but the most important thing to me is scouting, which I did not do this game, but it's a little ladder game. It's not really high level. Because if you scout, your macro is so much easier because you know when you can just be at 50 and no one will attack you. You can see when other people are at 50 and you can just kill them without them having a chance to build anything. If you count the gold mine and what they build, you can actually know how much gold they have, how much gold they can spend. So it's really macro. The biggest part of macro is probably scouting, and the biggest part of winning a battle is scouting. So it's really the most important for me.
Okay. And how do you think that FML does as a whole with this currently, since I certainly have my own opinion on it, but...
It's actually pretty terrible right now, but most player instead just wait to hear someone cry and then will either scout what he cried about or will just blindly believe him, or will believe him based on if he usually lies or usually tells the truth. Is that more or less your opinion?
Yeah, I think so, and I think that's actually kind of the biggest downside. Well, I think it's a catch-22 here, because I think that's the biggest downside of having such an active chatting and manipulation type of games. On the other hand, I think that manipulation would be so much less effective if players actually learned how to scout.
Yes.
So I think it's a chicken or the egg problem, and if we could increase our scouting, then we would have a lot less, fewer issues on manipulation and stuff like that. I
Actually,
think that's...
yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll try. Yeah. I remember Maga saying that one of the reasons our game was so long was because I had a scout owl, and I could always see what he was doing, so he couldn't just kill someone without me knowing about it. And if he would want to kill me, I could start crying before he was even anywhere near my main. So scouting can make some very long, boring games because no one can do anything. So again, do you really want player to start scouting?
I don't know. They're pretty long with just talking as is, so I think scouting would be okay, and I think that you and Magadansky are kind of a special case because you're both so entrenched in the free-for-all culture. If we had 4 of you in every match, then yeah, we'd pretty much never actually get a game complete. However, for the most part, there's going to be somebody who screws up or tries to take an opportunistic turn and attack somebody early on. So I think scouting good, and yes, we should encourage players to do it.
Fair enough.
Alright, one last question before I let you go. What is your all-time favorite game?
I actually watched that replay a while ago and I was like, man, I was terrible in that game. I should have lost. But it was my first super long FML game, which was only like 4 hours, which is not that long anymore.
Nearly 4 hours.
Yeah. But it was against Lost Ancient, Nooblex, and Louis Armstrong on Harvest. back when there were still islands and you could tower them like hell. Although no one actually towered them. But I absolutely loved that game because I won because I was feeding someone. So just that's some nice manip. Because basically I was losing my main. I had gold, but I was food block and they would not let me go since I had gold. So I started feeding my army to Lost Ancient, who had a Dark Ranger. So Louis Armstrong had no choice but to stop attacking me and start attacking Lost Ancient, since the more he waited, the bigger his army grew. And because of that, both player ignored me, and I was able to get back in it and kill the last building. So I looked at that game, and I got manhandled the whole game. It was terrible. But just for that last little piece of manipulation that I don't care about winning, I want Louis to lose, so I'm going to feed Lost, that just made my day.
Well, that is probably a unique game in that we really don't see stuff like that happen every day. And finding all those players willing to stay for 4 hours, somewhat of a rarity. Most of us have better things to be doing, but fortunately we got players like you to batten down the hatches.
Yep.
All right, well, on that note, thank you for joining me, Renaud. Any last words or shout-outs or anything you'd like to give?
I hate orcs.
That is words that Renaud will live and die by. Thank you for joining us. Renaud has one more game left in the regular season, and he is hoping to auto-qualify for the finals. So everybody wish him the best of luck, and thank you for joining us, Renaud.
Thanks for having me.